Alright, done a few adjustments here. So this is my first prototyping stream. I've been working on the game concepting for about a month now, but we're gonna try to actually make some pieces here, which is super fun and super exciting. Adjusted the camera a little bit here, turned off the autofocus, so we should be able to see the stuff we're working on. If you joined us earlier for the brainstorm, we did a game about someone else's stuff, where you make codes based on the things that you're putting in a drawer and that someone is eventually opening up and revealing and interpreting. So that was the game that we were just working on concepting today. I like to take a little time to let things simmer before I go straight from concepting to prototyping. I'm still not sure exactly how I would prototype that, so I'm going back to a game that we concepted last week called Star Academy Kindergarten. You can see our notes for it here on the screen. So this game was about Starfleet students, but in kindergarten. So all the kinds of things that you do to prepare to eventually become a student to boldly go where no one has gone before. So we came up with a lot of cool potential mini games that could be part of this. Cactopus wrangling. Magnet balancing for anti-gravity naps, and a cross-cultural communication. So you're in this kindergarten with a bunch of aliens from different planets, different cultures, and how do you communicate with them? So I have my Photoshop here. I'll get spun up in just a second. If you see anything for shortcuts or hotkeys, I've used Adobe Suite for years, but sometimes I do it. I don't use it very frequently, so there's definitely some stuff that I do probably in non-optimal ways. So feel free to share your best practices for Photoshop stuff. Image, canvas size. Let's switch this up. 1 and 3. Alright, so let's switch this over to the Photoshop view. Here we go. So we have our beginning plan here for what the cards are going to look like. I start out with a 3" by 4" with 1/4" borders on each side. This is my typical template that I use. Making it a little easier, I actually use a friend's online software for taking my card PNGs and putting them in layout for printing. There's many tools you can use for that. Adobe Suite can be a little pricey if you don't already use it for other things, but if you do have it, if you have InDesign, you can take the Photoshop files or the PNGs, put them into a sheet so that you can easily print it out and cut it out that way. For layout stuff, I've heard other people use GIMP as well. I haven't used it myself, so I can't speak to that, but importantly, if you're making cards digitally in this way, then it can be good to have some way to lay them out on a page to make it a little easier to print stuff out. So one thing I've been doing recently for games when I'm laying out the cards is so in the past I would make individual Photoshop files for each card and switch back and forth between them, but if there's a lot of things that you're reusing from card to card, it can be easier to have that in one Photoshop file, have them in groups and layers and different things that you can turn on and off to make it easy for you to produce the cards more quickly. There's just so many ways to do this. Another one is using Excel, and you can actually use programs to push the text and images that you put in your Excel spreadsheet into individual cards. Something I've been meaning to test out. The games I've designed so far have had few enough cards that it hasn't really been worth it for me to figure that out yet, but probably something that I should figure out sooner rather than later. Alright, So we got our file here. I'm going to write my note here. Star Academy. I just love that word. Star Academy Kindergarten. Woo! So the mini game that we were talking about from this was the communication. And the first thing that I had thought of when we were discussing this was having each person be a random character. And I had this cool idea back in the day when you had those flip books, the card ones that were made into 3 different sections, and you'd flip the different parts of it and they would have a figure on it. So it's all of a sudden it's a robot with a duck head. Super fun. So I like this idea of you have the head card, the body, and then the legs. And you're dealt these cards randomly to make this creature. Alright, so body. My super technical doodle skills over here. And then, it's got like a slime tail for its bottom part. And importantly, mechanically for this game, what I was thinking is characters will have different relevant features. So the actual image of what the characters look like is more for flavor, but the relevant parts that you're going to use for communication, stuff like eyes. It's interesting delving into the psychology of communication, and even, like, not speaking about aliens, even different humans and different cultures around the world think some types of communication that we take for granted, like a smile being a really good thing. In another culture, a smile could be a really bad thing, right? Or making direct eye contact when you're talking to someone. Some cultures that can be bad, some cultures that can be good. So the minimum idea that I have for this game is how do you communicate your communication styles and come to a middle ground without knowing or being able to express. Because nonverbal communication is something that we just do, and without being able to say, like, oh, I get angry when you smile at me, and work those out in a very specific manner. What other ways, what fun ways could we find to communicate these things? So if you're doing this 3 cards that fit together, and my idea is that they'll be face down so you won't know, for example. Now that's interesting. Okay. That is a little weird, because you will be able to, if we're speaking about this thematically, you would be able to see the creature that you are communicating with. So maybe the cards will be face up. But relevant mechanical features will be things like, do they have eyes? If they don't have eyes, then eye contact will have no effect. Maybe it's something you're revealing the cards over time. If they don't have a mouth for smiling, can you ask them questions? That was another thing we had talked about in the brainstorm last week, was how do children communicate with each other when there's a language barrier? I've been to other countries as a very small child, and it's a really cool different space where you're identifying objects. It's a much more children are much less afraid to make mistakes language-wise. They just want to learn. So they'll show you an apple and be like, oh, that's Apple, Äpple, or like Apfel in German. And kids want to communicate so bad that they have an impetus to do that. So these cards maybe be revealed, maybe not. But what's important for making sure that they line up is having a template or structure here. So let's go back to Photoshop and get some more guides out here. Figure out how wide I want these to be. In my diagram and in my head, these are more rectangular type cards. But for now, I want to mock them up as just being regular card types. Prototyping wise, if you can make it cards, It's a lot simpler than trying to mess around with different shapes of things. So I'm going to start out with 3 folders, heads, bodies, legs. I'm going to, since I'm doing sheets that are laid out 3 by 3, 9 cards on each, I'm just going to start out with 3 of each. So we'll have 9 by the end of this session. We'll have 9 cards total. All right, heads. Have head 1, head 2, head 3. There's 2 different ways to go about this: creating the file structure first, or creating the stuff that goes in the file structure. Duplicate. Well, I have my guides here, so that will be fine. I'm just going to start out with doing one of the heads. New layer. In here. All right, so we had talked about some things having eyes for eye contact, mouth for smiling, and maybe like another feature. We could just start with those 2. So how do I want to do this? Just do a quick doodle? Quick doodle, or do actual pen? I think I might just freehand it and keep it kind of casual, because it's going to be faster than trying to do it with the pen tool. Alright. Have this in my new layer here. So I have my guides for where it's going to connect to the body. We have, oh yeah, let's turn up the hardness for that. Let's just make it a little smaller. Alright, so first person, say like, ooh, bulbous head with like little tentacles on the top. Alright, cool. And that connects to where the body's going to be. Oh, I have the margins here. This one, I have made it go a little bit outside the margins. Not as relevant for the prototyping. We'll say that this one... Ooh, I think they can have like different sizes of eyes. I wonder if that would be mechanically relevant. Well, we'll say that this one does have an eye. Only has one eye though. And we'll have no mouth. Cool. Alright. So that is the first one, head 1. I'm actually going to go ahead and save this out because I don't think I'm going to change that. Actually, I should save this whole thing as a new project. Now I'm wondering if I'm going to do the do like a whole Star Academy kindergarten and all the mini games in there. Star Academy kindergarten. Yeah, this is like, wow, meta level of how you're organizing your folders. We're getting into the weeds here. I hope everyone's really enjoying that. Cross cultural communication. Excellent. Alliterative game name title. Very important. CCC cards. We'll just keep it simple. Probably gonna come back to bite us in the future, but we'll see. Hello, Senor Bob. Nice to see you. We are doing some prototyping if you weren't here in the beginning, so we're actually going to be physically making some of these games. Super exciting. I'm going to be in Photoshop. Actually, let me get my Twitch window over here. Cool. So now I can see the chat while I'm in my Photoshop as well. Because I got the dual monitors, so I should make use of those. Alright, so we have our first head card here. I'm not going to write on these cards specifically whether they have eyes, mouths, whether that's relevant. I'm just going to mock up the individual alien head cards. I've run into a problem of the past of putting too much information on the cards, especially mechanical, because things change so quickly. I prefer for very early prototypes just to get the basis of things out there and then be able to use the same cards multiple times without modifying them too much. So we have our first head here. I'm going to save that out. Save as PNG. Head 1. Alright. Perfect. Alright. Hide head 1. Come over here to head 2. What's head 2? Okay, cool. Alright, we've got to come up from the neck where these guides are to make sure we'll be able to connect to the rest of the body. But I like this idea of a very, like, flat head. I don't know why this is being so slow. Maybe I have too much stuff going on. I like spikes on top and maybe, like, little hairs. Again, for an early prototype, it's not super important to have all this stuff built out, but I'm having fun with it. So this creature is going to have no eyes, but they're going to have a mouth. Perfect. Alright, we'll save that out as head 2. This is still very early stage. I'm not entirely sure where I'm going with this, but I think just having the cards out for this game is going to be fun, and like moving them around, I think for this design in particular is going to have some cool stuff going on. Let's do like a cone head thing for this alien, but like I don't went too far with that. It's like a cone, but maybe it has like 2 heads. And maybe it has 3 eyes. And that could be an interesting thing mechanically too going forward. Actually, I like the pointy with just like the 2 eyes. Maybe some teeth in there. Aw, that's pretty cute. I just freehanded that, but it is actually pretty adorable. I like how that turned out. So this one has eyes and a mouth. Save that out as head 3. And as I mentioned in the beginning of the stream, I use Photoshop for prototyping, but haven't dug too deeply into all the shortcuts. So if you see me doing something like, oh, you could be pressing these buttons and doing that 10 times faster, feel free to mention that, because I definitely need to get a lot of shortcuts, hotkeys going on. Oh yeah, reprinting the prototype cards, as Senor Baub mentioned. It's definitely going to happen, and don't get too tied up and focused on making the cards, making them perfect, because you're going to do one test. Just in the last week, I reprinted cards like 3 or 4 times just from doing tests really rapidly, one after the other. So do as much as you can, but definitely don't be too beholden to what the cards look like. All right, so we'll go up to bodies. We're doing bodies 1. How about body 1? Body 1, body 2, body 3. Alright. I'm going to do layers the smart way now because why not? Shortcuts, hotkeys. Oh, I messed up my thing. So excited. Hotkeys! They're very exciting. Alright, so now we have the body, so we care about the top and the bottom. Let's say the relevant things for bodies are hands and tails? Or is tail going to be more of a bottom thing? What else would be a body? Hands for shaking. Maybe like a spine or like scales. Do we want tails in the bottom? I think tails, maybe number of hands. We'll just say the number of hands is the relevant factor here. Whoa. Alright. I think I did something to knock down my opacity. That's weird. Alright, so you're coming in from the neck here. I don't have a ton of space. And this person will have kind of straightforward the neck into 2 arms. Wow, that's pretty weird. That's fine. We're doing prototypes here. So this will be body 1. Save that out. 2 arms. Excellent. Go on to the next one. We'll say that this creature, this particular alien has... no, this is good. Arms and then tentacles, we could say that they interact differently. So maybe this person, their head comes down and instead of arms, they just have... I hope the other one comes across as arms, because those are arms. Let's say tentacles have dots. That's how we are super mechanically distinguishing these things. Alright, so come over here. Beautiful. Look at that. It's how you art. It's not really how you art. It's how you prototype art. Quick and rough is the important thing for getting this stuff done. Oops. Alright, nope. Save that one out as body 2. Alright. And what are we going to do for... So before we did eyes, just mouth, eyes and mouth. So we'll say this third creature, let's give him very like stick figure. So that's a little, it's kind of similar to what we did before. So they're gonna have just like a very narrow torso here. Maybe it's gonna be a little snaky. So that's to come down to the bottom. So this is gonna end up being pretty weird. But they have a hand, and remember we distinguished hands from not having the dots. It's close enough. We'll do a do-over. So we have over here. Here's their hand, not having the dots, and come back down to where it's going to connect. This alien is quite interesting. Then I'll have some tentacles. Come back over here. You know, these are tentacles because they have the 3 dots. Perfect. Nailed it. In case you're just joining us and wondering what the heck is going on here, Last week we prototyped one of the mini games for Star Academy Kindergarten, being this communication game based on whether your creatures had eyes, mouth, that kind of thing. And so now we're prototyping the aliens and seeing how those are going to line up together. Body 3, excellent. It's a chameleon hand. Sure. Mostly I'm doing this freehand with mouse, and so it's a little hard. I should get a Wacom tablet. I think that would be really great. Not having to have the camera here and actually projecting that. That would be super cool. I don't know if I've earned it yet though. I might have to work a little bit more on my design work before I do that. Cool. 3 heads, 3 bodies. Let's move on to legs. Legs 1, legs 2, and legs 3. Perfect. All right, and please don't yell at my file naming here. I'm definitely doing this kind of fast and loose. Try to keep things pretty tidy, but for early phase, sometimes it's more important to get things done than to have them be perfect. All right, so we're doing legs. We only care about the top here. So relevant for communication on the bottom parts of the bodies are going to be legs and tails. So first creature is only going to have legs, but maybe they will have many of these. Coming down a little too far for that. Legs, sure. They'll have like little pod, little suction cup legs. Got a little too close to the margin there, but all right. Beautiful. 3 legs, perfect. So I want to know if there's a faster way to save these as PNGs, because that would be super cool. Legs 1. All right, go over to legs 2. So this one's just going to be a tail, no legs. So I was thinking like a little, maybe come over a little more like that, a little like a big old floosh. It's probably not too close to the margins, and then comes back, so kind of like a snake body. And we know it's a tail because it's going to have 4 hairs. We'll call them hairs. Like when we are making games as opposed to more traditional art, even if I'm not specifically pointing out, like putting a sign like this is a tail, it's kind of nice to have an indicator or a symbol or something on there to distinguish, especially with the art. It can be tricky to determine exactly what things, exactly what things are. So let's get this as legs 2 and move on to legs 3. Even though they don't always have legs, I know we said they didn't have legs, but we're just using it as a shorthand. So this creature is going to have legs and a tail. Let's say that they just have, I didn't really show what legs are. Do those look like legs? Might be a little too interpretive. As much as I am having fun doing this art, I didn't want it to be a little more obvious. Keep it a little mechanical, right? That's why we're doing games and not doodles. And they'll have like a little tail here. Maybe a little baby tail here too. Right. Make sure that goes up. 2, 3, 4. We know their legs because they have 4 hairs, or their tails, I should say. Perfect. Save that out. All right. Perfect. So I have my PNGs here. Game design, Star Academy Kindergarten. Right, I have my 9 PNGs here. I'm going to do something that's a little bit cheating. My friend Chris has a software that will lay out the cards. So if you have your PNGs the right size, you can just put them in there and it will create it with the overlays and everything. So I'm going to be using that today. Otherwise, I would use InDesign and make a whole layout for them, which I might do, but I mostly just want to get this done quickly. So I'm just going to throw those. Oh wow, those got really squeezed. Oh, right. I was like, I have done something here. Cool. So it's meant for vertical cards. So I'm just going to go ahead and rotate all of these things to be in the right orientation. Otherwise they're going to be all squished looking, and that'll be sad because they're so cute. Yeah, that's another nice thing about doing the merges from a spreadsheet, in that you can do it a little more, you can do it pretty quickly with just getting all of your things into the document arranged properly. And I think that's an important thing when you're doing a lot of design, and the less difficult and less tricky it is for you to make these cards as quickly as possible, the more comfortable you're going to be playtesting, making changes, which is a hugely important part of game design, is not having any hang-ups or blockers in the way of quickly prototyping these things. Cool. So I have my sheet here. I don't have it on the Twitches because I don't have this screen in my thing, but I'm going to print it and show it off in just a second. Shut all this stuff down. And that will be it. That will be the start of their sensory organs. I like that. Sorry, my printer's a little loud. I think I'm actually, here, let me switch over to my rules view that I'm looking at right now. So I'm going to save this out as, I think I need a better name for this, but we'll say cross-cultural communication rules. Put the date on there because I always like to know when I last worked on something. Alright. Perfect. So we'll have this coming up. I'm going to take off everything that's not the cross-cultural communication. So we have the beginning rules here. Yeah, so for Star Academy Kindergarten, we were having this idea where you get star charts from doing the different activities. Ooh, my cards are ready though, so this is the fun part. Look at that. See, we have our sheet here. This is how a game is made. This is how you make a game. Normally I would have my paper cutter for this, but I'm just gonna cut them out and chat as I'm here. I've got my trusty old scissors. And while I'm cutting here, I wanted to talk a little bit. So we had made, I'm going to switch back over to, so I got my diagram here. Let's get back over to Photoshop. So we had talked about mechanically how these were going to work. Depending on whether the aliens had eyes, mouths, hands, etc., we were going to determine whether you could use certain communication styles. So this is like an automatic failure thing. If the creature you're communicating with doesn't have eyes, then trying to make eye contact, if you do that as an action, is automatically going to fail. So that was my first idea for how to treat this mechanically. Was the, you know, first you gotta check, and maybe the information's hidden, so you don't know right away if they have eyes. That's kind of funny too. It's like you're looking at the alien, you're like, are those dots? Are they like nubs? Are they nodules? Are their eyes? It seems like you get into some pretty embarrassing stuff. Some pretty embarrassing galactical faux pas, which I'm really excited about. The concept of that. So mechanically, some of your actions could fail if they just don't have the features for doing that. But then potentially, we're talking about in this alien's culture is looking, if they do have eyes, like first, do they have eyes? And then second, if they have eyes, are they appreciative of direct eye contact? And I was thinking there could be different states for them. So like, yes, direct eye contact is okay. Neutral, like I don't feel one way or the other about direct eye contact. Or negative. It's like, I feel very offended by having direct eye contact. Get my cards going down over here. So I was thinking I was going to sleeve these. I think I'm going to grab my sleeves real quick just to demonstrate, because there could be people here who are not super familiar with how this works. So let me make sure that I have my stuff going on here. So here I have my sleeve. I have an old artichokes prototype in here. You can also use a blank card or like anything with some structure that you have around the house. I like to use this for my cards because it gives them shuffleability, which is good. You can print on cardstock. I kind of like using paper because I usually sleeve them anyway. So if you're looking to go really fast, you can put things on index cards or print it directly to a stiffer type of paper. But I like doing that just because I've gotten into the habit of making it easy. Like the first few times you're doing a prototype, trying to do it really quick, you're shuffling up or mixing the cardstock. It's not too bad, but once you've done it a few times, it can get a little bit annoying and frustrating. So I'm just going to do one of each of these so we can see our beautiful alien coming to life. Oh yes, we just happened to get the alien that has all three of the things. Is this showing up? Oh my gosh, it's so adorable. Cool. This is the alien that we have that has literally all the features: eyes, mouth, tentacles, hands, feet, and tails. Alright, so I think I'm just going to have my more rules text in here. I was thinking about turning them portrait view so they're actually facing upright. I'm not too worried about that right now though. So let's say mechanics, and start to get a bunch of folders in there. So we can hide our legs for now, tidy up this file structure. So for each of the different things, you would have the aliens be able to say, oh, this one, and these could be random cards as well. So get some text over here. Oh my gosh. My text is very large right now. What is my font size? Why is it so large? All right. Also, this font is very crazy. So let's go to a more regular font. Does not like eye contact. And I'm thinking for this, make that a little bit easier. So I think for the cards, I might just have it be for each of the features, so they can have up to 6 features. 6 features, 3 of these cards for each. That's going to be 18 cards. I don't know if I want to go ahead and make up all of those right now, because that's going to be kind of a lot. So I think I'm going to do, for testing, 3 cards each for the body. So we'll start out for prototyping eyes, hands, and feet. So we'll put this as eyes. I can just duplicate this text, save as, still doing the PNG, eyes bad. Right, hide that away. Likes eye contact. Save that out as PNG as well. Eyes good. And for this, especially when you're not doing doodling, you can, I like to use blank cards sometimes, so you can take your ideas, write them out on a blank card, rapid prototype even more quickly than printing things out like this. I like to do it digitally, just because it can be a little less frustrating. The computer has much better handwriting than I do. Alright, duplicate this out. So there's always a trade-off, you know, when you have an idea, you really want to get it fast to the table. If the best way for you to do that is write a bunch of stuff out, totally do that. If you have some benefit from making changes more quickly, making things look a little less messy digitally, I like to do that. No feelings, or we'll say eye contact, contact neutral. Save that one out. Eyes meh. Yes, I hope you're appreciating my lovely saving, my file and save structure. I hope that you're really letting that sink in. Don't actually, it's pretty bad. I'm also trying to do it fast and loose, so take out some of the boring parts here. Alright, so we said we're going to do eyes, hands, and something about the feet. Does not like handshake. Save that out. If anyone has any shortcuts for saving PNGs quickly. Hands bad, that would be great because I do this a lot. I'm sure there's better ways for doing this, but someday. Someday we'll figure it out. Likes handshake. Does not like handshake, likes handshake. Hands good. And then we'll get the hands neutral in there as well. Oh, okay. I'm realizing, because I'm using my gaming mouse for this, and I actually have buttons set up to like change the opacity, which is pretty cool, and I should probably look into more for doing more useful stuff than accidentally making my words go away. Oops. handshake neutral. I like that as a like social orientation, right? Like, I am handshake neutral. I am handshake good. I am handshake evil. Neutral. I'm digging this too. I usually use a Libri or Calibri. Yeah, but now we're doing Century Gothic. It's got a nice feel to it. All right, hands, meh. Cool. So we're just going to do up the feet real quick. And then we'll be able to print this out as well. We could have organized these into the folders that we already had. We're putting in a separate mechanical folder. Lots of different ways. Hey, if someone does the dead fish handshake, I'm not sure if that's neutral or just, no, that's just negative. That's the bad handshake. Dance. Ooh, for feet, I like dance. Likes to dance. Oops. I like the dancing as a communication. I love this idea of these alien creatures dancing. Chaotic handshake. Oh, now we're doing role-playing games where this is your, what is your orientation in the handshake grid? Make like a whole diagram for that. That'll be fun. Alright, save this out. Feet. Oh, we did feet good. Oops. Should start with feet bad. That's fine. Feet are good. Does not like to dance. And I wonder if they don't have like feet or eyes or whatever, if it should just be neutral or no effect. It's definitely something to work out mechanically. All right. Chaotic handshake. Neutral, lawful handshake. Like the chaotic handshake is gonna be like when you do the turkey, when you do like you're doing fist bumps. Someone's like this and they do that, so you like bump their hand, or they do like the turkey things. That's what I picture. Picture that. All right. What do you have? We have feet bad. Right. Oh no. Yes. Does not like to dance. Nope. Don't delete. Make a new one of those. And we'll say, what was it? Handshake neutral, dance neutral. Like Dance Central, but dance neutral. I don't know in the real world if there's anything like dancing neutral. It's like it's either good or it's really bad. You don't really have a middle ground of just like, okay, that is dancing, can confirm. All right, so dancing is going to be feet meh. Perfect. So as we did before, because of the thing we're using, it is fast, but we do have to rotate these cards in order to get them into the template that I'm using. So just bear with me. Bear with me for a moment and look at this beautiful alien that I have created here. Maybe give them a name. I like Sparky. Sparky's a good name. Anastasia is also a good name. Vermilion is pretty cool. But maybe just George. I like giving cool things boring names. George is fine. If your name is George, I'm not saying that it's, say like standard instead of boring. Right. Cool. Got all our things there. Going to add them into my program. You can't see because I don't have it up. Download and print that sheet. Perfect. I'm doing this prototyping stream for the first time, so definitely open to feedback as my printer makes its loud printer noises. I'm having fun making these games. It's also a great motivator for me to take some of these concepts from concept to finished game. So if you're seeing anything, if there's any parts of it that you like, parts you find boring, definitely let me know. Play around with some of our... Oh, okay. Oh my gosh. That one's a pretty cool. That's a pretty cute Sparky. So this is my idea, and this is... mechanically, we're not quite there yet with where the game is, but just this idea of like laying out the different pieces, you know, giving it a bunch of tentacles, changing up the head, like this is super fun, right? And I think that it definitely embodies the toy aspect, which is very important for games. Like, do you have pieces that you can lay down in front of people and they'll have fun playing with them, which I think is a very important way that you can get people to engage with the game even before they know exactly what it's about. So if people dance neutral. Someone needs to diagram this. People are enjoying and being entertained. We can definitely keep doing what we're doing. I can even put this. This is a nice thing about the camera, right? Like, ooh. This is some ASMR right here with the... I hope that doesn't sound too gross on camera because I don't have my headphones on right now. Watch as I strategically hand cut these cards. Yeah, those are some good cuts. I mentioned before, I have a couple of different techniques for quickly cutting out the cards. I have a paper cutter that I use, like the chopper style, that just does a big chop, comes down and does them really fast. That one's pretty cool. I also have the X-Acto knife ruler method, which is a pretty effective way of getting the cards cut. Not sure which exactly I prefer. I've been doing the chopper method for longer, so it just feels pretty familiar. But I think it's something that's definitely worth playing around with, especially if you're making a game that has a lot of cards, like on the order of hundreds of cards, and you're doing a lot of reprints. Getting down the time it takes to cut the cards can be a really big quality of life improvement. Dance interpretive. Oh, I like that. Hey Google, turn on all the lights. It's dork. It's getting dork in here. I think that's something that's very important when you're getting more into game design. Starting out, it's not super important how you're laying things out. Like, as long as you can get your game to the table, you should do whatever it takes. But as you get more into it, and some of the more repetitive, because there's a lot of repetitive parts, especially to tabletop game design, where you're printing the cards, you're cutting the cards, you're sleeving the cards, you're testing the game. It can feel a little bit repetitive, so anything you can do to speed up some of those slower parts can be really good and really powerful, because you don't want to have blockers, right? You don't want to have things where something happens and all of a sudden you don't feel like reprinting, like you've had a long day. Anything you can do to remove the barriers to game design is good, because game design is great and fun and everyone should do it. Alright, I'm not going to sleeve these up right now, but I have my cards. Ideally for this, I would have one set of cards for each player. So my idea, a little bit of pitch and push for this, is each player is going to, make sure this is in the screen here. Each player is going to have an alien opposite side of the table, not right next to each other. You're going to try to do a communication Oh, you see, this is where interesting stuff comes up. If you're trying to make eye contact and they don't have eyes, it's not going to work. But what if you're trying to smile and they don't have eyes? Like, do they have other visual sensory organs? I don't know yet. Lots of interesting stuff going on there. So let's get two characters that have feet, and let's get the dance ones out here. And again, maybe this is something I'm thinking potentially a cooperative game where you're trying to make this communication happen, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's competitive and you're trying to bluff what's going on. So, of course, I have one of each card, so we know these aren't going to be the same, but potentially you could have the two players put down their decisions for whether or not they like to dance. Reveal simultaneously, I like to dance, I do not like to dance. Our communication has failed. It's sad. So in this, my interpretation would be like, I would initiate the communication. So I'm going to say, I'm going to dance with you. And maybe in that situation, we would both, you would know that I would like to dance. So you would want to dance as well. So we have a positive dancing experience. Or maybe you'd want to throw down a negative dance so that we could, if it's competitive. So like, I want to dance with you. I don't want to dance with you. I like the idea of it being cooperative. So having something where we're both working towards communication, because I think that's pretty thematic for this kind of game. So that is the start of prototyping this game. There's a lot more that goes into making a full game. Just making some physical parts of this, I have more of a sense of where the game is going to go, which is really cool. The more sense you have in the beginning, it can give you good energy to move your game forward. But I think we can do some more thinking on exactly what the mechanics are. Now that I have the pieces, I can move them around, play with them like that. So it's a great start to play testing the game with myself, getting the pieces moving around into actual play, and then potentially play testing with other people as well. But yeah, that was my first prototyping stream. I had a lot of fun. Really glad that everyone could join me today. They can sense a smile through the change in pressure, in air pressure. I like that. For they have like echolocation, or they have like little hairs, like a cat, like little whiskers all over their face. So they're like, oh, you're smiling right now. I'm going to, or maybe they have to like touch you with the whiskers. So put the whiskers on you and say like, oh, you're smiling. And the cat whiskers are poking you in the face. You're like, that's really enjoyable. Thank you, I guess. All right, cool. Well, that was my first prototype stream. Super fun. Now that I have my setup here, I'm hoping to do more in the future and potentially getting my other camera set up as well, so I can have my paper slicing, have my grid laid out, and do some more like bigger scale prototyping stuff away from my desk. But this is good. I'm definitely going to do more in the future. So hopefully you have a really fun rest of your evening today. If you have any questions about game design, ideating, concepting, prototyping, feel free to shoot them over to me on Twitter at @MLarkins, and tune in here every week for more great board game design content. Signing off, I'm Emma Larkins. It's been fun. Catch you next time.